Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So let's face it, it's been a very rough year for the Star Wars franchise. Many people are predicting that Star Wars Outlaws is going to be one of the biggest flops in the gaming industry this year, and likewise, Star Wars The Acolyte was a very disappointing series, and many people who are fans of The Acolyte have always tried to deflect any criticism directed towards this series or its creators. In fact, when it was revealed that the audience score for this series was below 15%, fans of the series said that was the product of misogyny and racism. On top of that, journalists came forward to say that this low score was not embarrassing for the show and its creators, it was embarrassing for the people leaving negative scores. And on top of that, this show was just a disjointed and boring mess that somehow managed to make the concept of lesbian space witches lame. In fact, the show itself gives the South Park parody a run for its money. In fact, we saw the star of the series, Amanda Stenberg, release a diss track on her critics that she labeled as bigots while there were still episodes left to air. So color me shocked when 2 days ago it was announced that The Acolyte has been canceled after one season. Yeah, I hope you were sitting in your chairs for that unexpected twist right there. This is what failure looks like. Imagine having a $180 million budget and one of the most beloved and profitable IPs out there with generations of fans, and you can't even get past the first season. Now, just like with the previous discourse that was happening while the show was airing, now people are trying to deflect any criticism that was directed towards this series in wake of its cancellation. Let's see some of the excuses and deflection that these fans of the series are trying to make. So here's one tweet saying, "The Acolyte being canceled is just another example of toxic internet hate. The show never got a chance to breathe, and half the people hating on it have never even watched an episode. It's not my favorite piece of Star Wars content, but it certainly didn't deserve to be axed." Another user saying, "Ironic how the people claiming that The Acolyte killed Star Wars are now responsible for killing Star Wars stories and characters before they had a chance to find their feet and grow. That is so ridiculous." Imagine that pitch to the studio. Yeah, I'm gonna need $180 million to make this series. The first season is really just planting the roots. It's gonna get good in the second and third seasons. That's where people are gonna start tuning in. And oh, by the way, we're gonna need another couple rounds of $100 million budgets for those as well. It's ridiculous. You shouldn't need a full season to plant your feet in the ground here. You should be good from the start. Why do you think series like Game of Thrones were so successful? Did it take them multiple seasons to rope you in? No, it was good right from the start. However, we see more excuses like this. This user saying, "Anyways, a huge, gigantic FU to everyone who review bombed this without even watching." Either these people are very disingenuous or they are just naive as to how all this works. If this show was profitable, it would get another season. The review bombs don't mean nothing when it comes to whether a show gets a second season or not. It could have a 1% rating on the audience score, but if it was profitable, there would likely be a second season. And I think all these claims we just looked at and some of the further claims we're going to talk about are greatly reflected in this TikTok. Let's listen to what this person had to say.
So The Acolyte was canceled. And it doesn't really matter whether or not you liked the show or not. Because the truth of the matter is, regardless of whether or not you liked this show, it was set up to fail from the beginning. When The Acolyte was first announced as a female-run show with Leslie Headland at the helm, starring a black femme and a diverse cast of characters unlike we had seen in a Star Wars project before, the review bombers took to the internet before the show even had a chance to air. Amanda Stenberg, who not only gave a phenomenal performance as Osha, but also as her twin sister May, had no choice but to stick up for themselves and defend herself against the vitriol and bigotry that she was receiving because Lucasfilm did not protect her. Lucasfilm didn't do anything to protect the cast and the crew of The Acolyte from all of the bigoted ideology that they were subject to throughout the course of this show airing on Disney+. I understand that The Acolyte did not do as well as, say, The Mandalorian, but the viewership was not bad, and it was actually the second most streamed Disney Plus project this year. But the precedent this is setting to cancel this show just a month after its finale aired without even allowing the show to breathe or get a second season where it would have been able to work out the kinks kinks that it did have is very scary and very concerning. Because what Lucasfilm is doing with this decision is allowing the bigots to win, allowing the bigots to run with this and decide, even if that's not the original intention of canceling the show, that they have won, that they are correct, that Star Wars needs to be white and male, and it can't be anything else.
Okay, so let's address the many different claims she made during that TikTok, beginning with the claim that the Acolyte got very good viewership. That is clearly not true if they're not getting a second season. Okay, if it was a profitable, very heavily watched series, they would likely be getting a second season. And on top of that, they already had a very steep hill to climb with a $180 million budget, which clearly they weren't able to achieve the viewership they were looking for. And on top of that, there's a lot of deflection of responsibility here, basically saying people didn't want to tune in because of a strong female lead, which is ridiculous because if you look at Star Wars itself, Rogue One had that, and it succeeded very well and had a very good audience score, almost 5 or 6 times higher than the Acolyte. So that's a ridiculous claim. And on top of that, if you look at the industry right now, House of the Dragon is doing great. If what she was saying about the Acolyte was true, then House of the Dragon would not be succeeding the way that it is now. And you see other people raising the power of many. This is something people that have been raising all throughout the premiere of the Acolyte and in its aftermath when it was canceled. You see this person saying the finale of the Acolyte was tailor-made to set up a season 2 and the fans truly deserve to see where it could have gone. Ignore the people who don't want it. We want it. Who's with me? Well, clearly not many people because the show got canceled because likely it didn't get any good viewership. And on top of that, remember, I don't know if people saw this when it was happening. There was a little trend going around called There Are More of Us, where many different content creators were saying, there are more of us. You know, the hatred and the criticism of this show is just from a loud minority. The majority of us are receiving this show very well, and we love it, and we want more of it. And now people are saying that in wake of its cancellation. And all these people, they refuse to acknowledge that maybe this show just wasn't very good. Maybe, for example, people are critical of Amandla Stenberg in her main role because maybe she didn't do a very good job. Maybe she didn't have the range that was necessary for this role. And on top of that, her attitude towards fans is ridiculous. It was one of the reasons why people had such a spiteful attitude towards her. She dropped a diss track on Star Wars fans as the show was still airing. And I already know the preloaded response to what I just said. People say, no, Rev, that wasn't a diss track on Star Wars fans. That was a diss track on bigots attacking the show. Well, Amandla and all of these people defending the series, they label anyone who criticizes the show as a bigot. So I don't really think that is a fair label to give to this situation. They're basically labeling anyone who criticized the show or didn't give it a chance a bigot because they believe somehow their motivation for all of that was because they're racist. And on top of that, that is the narrative they're trying to go with, saying, congrats, bigots, you won. How does it feel? There's always this narrative, even with like the gaming industry right now, that people just want things to fail. No, they don't. People like seeing accountability. If a show or a product sucks, it gets canceled. That's a good result because we shouldn't be rewarding mediocrity in the entertainment industry. But on top of that, people want something good. Just because something is criticized doesn't mean it was doomed from the start, and also that everyone who's going after something is just some hateful bigot. On top of that, a lot of the responses people are having to the cancellation of the Acolyte are looking at things throughout the show that really just focus on the traits of the actors that were involved with the series. You can see this tweet. They canceled the Acolyte because they couldn't stand the sight of 2 hot people of color holding hands. But I will always remember. Here's another one saying, shameful how many people hate in good shows led by women. Then complain when nothing new or original is made anymore. I'll always love this show and no one can't take the joy and excitement this show brought to many of us. The force is female. Suck it, incels. Here's another one saying, hashtag the Acolyte getting canceled because incels couldn't handle a sexy black girl and sexy Asian man serving evil villainous romance. Holy TikTok language right there. But anyways, did you notice something in those past couple of tweets? Did you ever see them call the actress by their name, like Amandla, or even label them as the main actress? They just keep referring to them as black girl, Asian guy. Like, that is the most important thing in their view. It's not about the character they're playing, their performance. It's all about physical traits. It's a very odd thing to focus on and clearly a part of some sort of agenda that they're trying to push here. On top of that, you see tweets like this saying, Disney really just said F you to so many queer, people of color, and non-traditional Star Wars fans, all because the show got review bombed to hell and back before it even came out. Which again, the review bombing excuse is ridiculous, but on top of that, isn't it funny to see how Lucasfilm here tried to pander to a certain target demographic, and then that demographic is still not happy and blames them and is angry at them? And on top of that, you see tweets like this saying, I'm really tired of sharing the franchise I love with toxic, misogynistic, immature racists and constantly seeing them being catered to, even though the rest of us have been here all along, wanting new and fresh stories that connect deeply with all of us. Here's another one saying, canceling The Acolyte is one of the worst decisions ever. It was a series that was finally pushing Star Wars into new, fresh directions and was set up for an even better second season. But a bunch of babies couldn't handle that, and now we'll be stuck with more of the same forever. Now, this thread really captures the victim mentality of a lot of these fans of the series. They're trying so desperately to paint this narrative that they're the victims and that these evil, terrible people who criticize the show are the reason it's not getting a second season. So let's read this thread. It says, a Disney Star Wars defender tries to fabricate death threats, gets caught, and scrambles to delete all their posts. Let's begin here. This user says both sides have extremes and that there's all kinds of toxicity flying around and threats, where the original poster of the thread says, show me the receipts then. And here is the receipts of these death threats this person's receiving on a personal level. And as highlighted by the original poster here, this person left this comment underneath their video. However, this account belongs to the person sharing the screenshot because they forgot to crop out the reply bar here where it shows that they have the same profile picture. And if you go to the actual account, it was created on the day the screenshot was made. So this person literally created a burner account, left a threat underneath their own video, and then tried to pass it off as someone else threatening them. That is very pathetic. But overall, this whole discourse is very interesting. It's interesting on the one hand to see how Black Myth Wukong is having so much success after being attacked by the media and activists everywhere. But then on the other hand, the Acolyte that was propped up by these journalists and these activists has now failed. And that is a very good thing to see. That is how things should go. If you make a bad product, you shouldn't get any support. And if you make a good product, you should get support. But that is all for now. Very interesting discourse. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.